is. It's Stepping in the Name of Love with Footsteps for Life with our very own local podiatrist and foot specialist, Dr. Tanisha Richmond. It's a beautiful Saturday, rainy, but it's beautiful.
It's
Dr.
beautiful
Richmond.
for our economy and our farmers. They needed some rain.
Absolutely,
Yes, rain is good.
And Old State Place today is on right now, which
Oh,
is a good thing.
Oh, they on right
It's
now?
on right now. It's a
Oh,
good thing. So
are
we'll
they
begin
are they in the
discussing-
championship or
Well,
have they
you know
made
what? We're
it?
going to have details coming up. We're after
Oh,
the show, so I want everybody to stay tuned. It's going to
okay.
be an exciting day here. But I'm excited today because you've got a series of topics today that
Yeah.
is really going to educate our
Yes.
listeners about the feet.
Yes.
And we want you to know every fourth Saturday, Dr. Tanisha Richmond is here. She is our local podiatrist and foot specialist located inside of the Dr. Charles R. Drew Health Center.
Yes.
That's 1323 West Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Way. And give us your hours, Dr. Richmond.
8:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. And I think on Tuesdays and Thursdays we're open to 6. We have later hours as well.
Okay, that is awesome. So we're going to talk about several things today
Yeah.
and very interesting topics. When you laid them out this morning, I thought, wow, we're really going to educate our listeners today about the feet. And you're going to focus right now on smoking and gangrene. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that and how it affects the feet.
So smoking, I always tell my patients there's really no good reason to smoke, even if you have stock in cigarettes. You probably won't live long enough to reap your benefits. Smoking is was pretty much dangerous to the entire body, but it's especially dangerous to your vascular system. So smoking damages the blood vessels in your entire body. But when you think of the anatomy of the human body, the vessel that comes off your heart, which is your abdominal aorta, when it comes off your heart, it's probably about the width of a hose pipe. But by the time those vessels split off and reach your feet, they're only the width of the tip of a pencil. So any kind of blockage, any kind of clot, any kind of issue to those blood vessels can damage the blood flow to the feet. So with smoking, it causes damage to the actual vessel itself. And then usually people, when I was in residency, I did a rotation with our dietitian, well, our diabetic endocrinologist. Mm-hmm. So there's an unusual phenomenon that's found in veterans, especially Vietnam veterans. It's called Agent Orange diabetes. And basically, it's like a super diabetes. It's a diabetes where they're taking thousands of units of insulin. They're still uncontrolled. But it's like a very hard to manage diabetes. But one thing he pointed out to me was, you think all those amputees sitting out front smoking lost their limbs in the war. He said, no, they're all smokers. And I realized they don't let you smoke like that anymore. But when I was at the VA, we would walk through a plume of smoke from all the veterans out front. And most of the ones that were smoking were missing legs.
Wow. So tell me, Dr. Richmond, gangrene happens when?
So gangrene happens when there's no blood flow to the tissue. So it dies. So basically, patients always ask, do I have gangrene? Do I have gangrene? Do I have gangrene? When in doubt, go to Google, Dr. Google, and Google gangrene of the foot and click images. So I want you to see what that looks like. Gangrene is usually if you are brown, like caramel, gangrene will be jet black, like charcoal black. So there's a phenomenon called wet gangrene and a phenomenon called dry gangrene. Mm-hmm. So if it's dry, it looks like a mummy foot, like mummy. The mummy that's actually more stable than wet. Wet gangrene means the tissue is not completely dead and the infection can move. So that means it can hit your bloodstream and it can go up the leg and it can kill you.
So in essence, there's no turning back once gangrene sets
No,
up.
that tissue has to be amputated.
It's dead?
It is dead.
There's
yes.
no way to bring it back to life at all. Okay.
No. Well, sometimes what they will do, sometimes if you have a vascular specialist on board, they can do what's called revascularize you. So basically they go in, they rotor the vessels, they open it up, and they watch. And generally what we'll do is dress the tissue with betadine, keep it dry and stable, and see what auto-amputates, which means they'll just fall off on its own. Because that actually happened at the VA. I had a patient bring in a toe and a bag, wanting to
So we're at home, Dr. Richmond, and you're telling us that because gangrene has set up in that toe dies and it literally just falls off?
Yes, the body will auto-amputate it if it is dry gangrene. But you do not want to wait on that process because you're taking a gamble on whether it's dry or wet. And most people, only people who can discern that would be a medical person. But if you are black, African American, and your leg is caramel and your foot is charcoal black, you have a problem.
So
that is an emergency.
So what are some of the early signs that gangrene is setting up? And I understand, especially in the extremities, like the toes, the fingers.
It's something called, what we call capillary fill time. So what we'll do is we'll press the toe and we count the seconds that it takes for the toe to turn back pink. Or we'll look at the toes. All your toes should be a pinkish color. So say you look at your toes and they're kind of blue, dusky, purple color, not good. That means they're not getting blood flow. Or say you're starting to get some pains that weren't there before. Or say one toe is turning colors on its own. That's not good because something could have happened to just one toe that's cutting off the circulation just to that particular toe. So, but I mean, when in doubt, like I tell my patients, when in doubt, if you wake up and your feet don't match, they're not the same color, if there's one leg swollen, one leg's not, give the office a call. And I always tell, especially my diabetics, I always tell them your magic words are, I'm diabetic, I think something's infected. We'll get you in that day or the next day. If we can't get you in, we're going to tell you to go to an ER urgent care. Because things, especially in a diabetic, can go bad overnight. I mean, because when you're diabetic, your vascular system is usually compromised. The system that fights infection usually doesn't work as well. And then the system that can heal your wounds don't work as well. So it's like a perfect storm. So you have to get to someone quickly so we can step in and get you under control and do what we need to do.
Dr. Richmond, can you share with the listeners what exactly is peripheral arterial disease?
So in layman's term, that's just poor blood flow. So basically your arteries are clogged. You got clogged plumbing. So basically the vessels that go, when we talk about PAD or PVD, which is peripheral arterial disease, we talk about the blood flow from the waist down. So we concentrate on the blood flow from your hips down because when you talk about the anatomy, as you go further down, those vessels get smaller and smaller. So any kind of blockage, any kind of clot can be catastrophic. It just cuts off the blood flow. So that's why we are so concerned about that specifically. And then generally what happens by the time you show up, if you're not under the care of like a podiatrist or a vascular specialist, it's generally too late. And then that's when people won't show up until it's too late because they're, out of fear. They don't come in when they first start seeing symptoms. So some of the symptoms from a PVD is like having cramping in your legs when you're walking or sleeping, especially if you can't walk a block without stopping to rest. Your calves are hurting. If you have no hair on your legs or feet, and that's not with shaving. You're just hairless. You have discoloration of your skin. Like I said, you're caramel on top, but your feet are black. And if your skin is dry, beautiful feet are healthy feet. If you take your feet off and your shoes off and they're flawless, they're beautiful. But if you take them off and it looks like it's snowing,
it's time to make an appointment.
Yes,
right?
you're probably not that healthy.
Yes.
Because blood brings in moisture to the skin. And then if you're diabetic and uncontrolled, the nerves no longer tell the skin to make their own natural oil. So that's why diabetic skin is so dry. So pretty feet are healthy feet. Dry, crusty, ugly feet, not healthy.
And not so pretty either, huh?
No,
You know,
no.
Dr. Richfeet, you have an amazing initiative that you recently started called Project Anti-Stop.
Yes.
No toes left behind.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that initiative that you started?
So actually, I started with Dr. Kamal Marar. He's a vascular, he's an interventional radiologist. And we started this together because the statistics when it comes to amputations, especially in the African American community, are horrific. We are number one across the board for amputations, preventable amputations in the lower extremity. And our goal is to get patients who are high risk for vascular disease, diabetics, smokers, patients with high cholesterol, high blood pressure, over the age of 65, patients with a history of coronary disease, which means heart disease, having strokes, patients on dialysis. So all those different factors increases your chances of having vascular disease. So there's a small test that we do in my office. It's called an ABI, which is an ankle brachial index. And it's just a blood pressure cuff on their arms and legs at the same time, and an ultrasound. And this test will show how the blood is flowing through the legs. And then we send that to the vascular specialist, who may have to do another test that's more invasive, but he can actually put a dye or carbon monoxide into the person, and they can actually see the blood vessels with an x-ray machine. And then they can actually go in and open up the vessels. And this can prevent amputations because we can fix it before the tissue dies, or if there was some kind of injury, say you stub your toe or something like that, there'll be enough blood flow to come in to heal that wound.
So when you started this initiative, and by the way, how's it going so far?
It's going a little slowly. You know, in the African American community, because of our history with the Tuskegee experiment, and I've heard of new things they've done to us as far back as slavery, we have a lot of mistrust of the healthcare system. So it's going to be a slow process. I mean, Rome wasn't built overnight, but from what I find from my patients that are educated and are knowledgeable, and then have the procedure and see how better their legs feel before and after, you know, it's exciting to see. And me being a diabetic, 18 years now.
Has it been 18 years?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was diagnosed in 2001. Yeah.
Wow.
So, you know, living with the same disease that my patients live with, and being a diabetic the entire time I've been a physician, I see it, feel it myself. So it's something that I really, it gives me a lot of joy to know that I've been able to save a leg. And then knowing the statistics, you know, if a person loses a limb, they have a 50% chance of being dead in 5 years. If they lose both, they have a 100% chance of being dead. And I see it all the time.
And they can actually call you, Dr. Richmond, for a free screening for PAD, correct?
Yes, so they could call 937-228-3668. We're now doing them on Wednesdays, so you could give the office a call for a screening. You could talk to your primary care doctor for a referral, but most insurances, I think outside of like maybe UHC, does not require a referral. But if you're concerned, you can always call your insurance or call the office at 937-228-3668 to see if you need a referral.
And I know you have a list of symptoms that people can look for if they are seeing these things on themselves or people that they love, so that they can make sure they take the corrective measures to see you. Can you share some of those with us?
So you could have leg pain from the thighs, hip, calf, or foot. That doesn't go away when you stop exercising. Leg numbness or weakness. No pulse or weak pulse in your legs or feet. Shiny skin on your legs, which means no hair. Foot or toe wounds that won't heal or heal very slowly. The gangrene or dead tissue. Oh, a marked decrease in the temperature of your foot compared to your leg or the rest of your body. So if you feel one foot is extremely colder than the other, or if you're constantly complaining that your feet are cold. If you know, especially in the winter months, well, no, year round your feet are cold all the time. Pore or nail growth. So if your nails are thick, yellow, crumbly, that could be a sign of PVD. No hair growth on the legs or toes, and erectile dysfunction in men. And that's lots of men don't know that one, but that also comes from being a diabetic as well. Uncontrolled diabetes causes erectile dysfunction because it damages the nerves and the blood vessels that innervate the penis. So I always like to scare my men into getting everything checked.
Get it checked.
Get it checked.
We want to thank you and Dr. Kamal for your initiative with Project Amp You Stop, and ask everyone to please get more information on it. And certainly if any of those symptoms for you or someone you love is something that you're noticing, to make sure they get in contact with you. So we're going to go to the phones, Dr. Richmond. We do have a caller on the line, and see if they have a question or comment.
Okay.
Good afternoon, caller.
Good morning. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I would have to look at your report, but was it good after you had the procedure done? Okay. Oh, good. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Oh. And so I've been living like this for so long. You didn't know the difference. I never noticed that anything different. But yeah. Now, since I had it, I noticed, that the pain, my right leg is just about gone. That's wonderful. I noticed that my left leg is still not quite, but it's a whole lot better. And I'm starting to feel better. Well, that's awesome. And my toes, I can wiggle. I never thought. Yeah. I was thinking, mine felt a little better, But I guess what you were saying is that blockage, and that's what he was saying. And that it didn't feel good. And I didn't have no cold. My system was all heat. And if you touch it, it seemed like you had a little band around it when I wear socks. But now, that is diminishing, not all the way, but I would say 75%. Wow. Oh, you're welcome. Yes. Uh-huh. Yes, it will. But that is awesome that you're doing so much better. I'm so glad that you called in, and thank you so much for calling in today. Ain't that a blessing? Amen. Okay.
We actually see that smile on your
Yes,
face.
I feel it. I feel it in my spirit.
Thanks for calling. Have a good day today. Interesting.
All right.
Interesting. Well, Doc, you've helped them in so many ways.
Hey, you never know.
Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll let you tell us a little bit more about the services that you provide at Richmond Foot and Ankle Clinic, 1323 West Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Way. We'll be back after
Okay.
this message.
All right.
Hello.